Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Jake. This is Press to Play Rewind for the world of film this week. Again, I am joined by my buddy Forrest. Forrest, thanks for being back here. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. I'm excited to talk about some news that we've come across here.
Yeah, and this week, there's some pretty interesting, not a lot of concrete stuff here, but there's some pretty interesting, fun stuff to talk about. So let's not waste any time. Let's just jump right into it. Now, we're going to talk about Spider-Verse 2, or Into the Spider-Verse 2. First of all, I want to say this story actually happened a little over a week ago, and I have no idea how it flew under my radar, but I'm way too excited to not talk about it on the channel, so we're going to talk about it anyway. Forrest and I are both huge Spider-Man fans. We actually saw the first Into the Spider-Verse together, and it was one of my favorite films that year, and I think it's one of the best comic book movies of all time. It is incredible. It meshes all those multiple art styles and animation styles in this weird, wacky, out there story, but it still had a ton of heart. I absolutely loved that movie, and one of the coolest things it did was introduce Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen to the mainstream audience, which not a lot of people have heard of those characters before, and it looks like we know which character that they're going to want to show off to the mainstream in this sequel. Now, Lord and Miller, who worked on the last one, are currently working on Spider-Verse 2, posted some cheeky kind of teaser on Twitter. So what happened was Phil Lord got on Twitter and he said, "My ears aren't big enough or stiff enough for my mask-wearing needs. Any suggestions?" And Christopher Miller replied right under that with this really cool picture of Silk. And it looks like that's just from a cover, but there has been tons of speculation about, is Silk going to show up in this? I don't think this is a coincidence at all. A lot of people have been talking about this lately. So for them, they know that people are going to take this out of context if they did that. I think they are absolutely putting Silk in the sequel to Spider-Verse 2, and I could not be more thrilled. I like the Silk character a lot, and I think she's a perfect fit for Spider-Verse 2. You know, I'm always about adding more diversity to projects, and, you know, seeing a Korean-American woman being in this is going to be awesome. And I think she's just got one of the coolest overall designs of all of the sort of Spider people in Marvel Comics to begin with. What they're going to be able to do with her and her art style and everything, I just cannot wait to see. I think we're probably going to see Spider-Man 2099 in there as well, so this thing's really shaping up to be really cool. Forrest, what are your thoughts on Silk and Spider-Man and just Spider-Verse 2 overall?
Yeah, so I have not read a lot of comics with Silk in it, actually zero, I think, but I've always liked her character design. I actually have a set of plates I got from Comic-Con a couple years ago that Silk was part of. That's actually my favorite plate, just because she's such a cool, her outfit's amazing. Yeah. It's very exciting to hear any Spider-Verse news, just because that movie was something else. They really went off the grid with how they did it, and it was a risk and it paid off. So it's exciting to see more Spider people be involved in this, especially Silk. And yes, I'm all for Spider-Man 2099 joining, because I just think he's also a very cool character, and it works right in with the diversity, because I think he's Latino.
Yeah, I believe he is. I don't know a ton about Spider-Man 2099, but I think you're right about that.
I have watched all the Ultimate Spider-Man TV series on Disney+. There's a couple episodes with him. They have a Spider-Verse kind of thing, which is super cool. I'm currently rewatching the 90s Spider-Man, so nice. Any Spider-Man character that they can throw in is welcome.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be so cool to see, and just there's sort of supercharged in-your-face art style with this stuff. I think Silk's design is just going to be incredible, and you know, they tweaked Spider-Gwen's design for the movie, and I think it's the best she's ever looked. I cannot wait to see what they do with the Silk costume, and you know, her webs come out of her fingers as opposed to, you know, the typical swipping kind of sign. I think what they're going to be able to do with that from an animation standpoint is just going to be so visually cool, and all of her covers and everything on her comics are so cool. So I am 100% in for this. I saw this and I was like, hell yes, give it to me now. 2022 is way too far away to be getting news right now. I want it so bad. Maybe at the end of next year, we're going to start seeing teasers and stuff. We might see some actual images from these characters.
I want more characters to be able to cosplay. Not that I've made any, but I want to. And this is it's prime time for more Spider-Man stuff. So
that's what's so cool about Spider-Verse to me, is that people had never heard of Miles Morales or Spider-Gwen or Spider-Ham or Noir or anything like that, and they got introduced to them. And so we're going to see so much more merch and just awareness of characters like Silk, and I think that is so cool. And just from a like that diversity standpoint, I love to see other people get represented. You know, when the first one came out, I saw so many little African American kids being like so excited to see a Spider-Man that looked like them, and they were dressing up as Miles and everything. It meant so much to them.
Miles is a great character.
I love seeing that, and now we're going to get that for a Korean American, and I think that is so awesome. And, you know, more female superheroes for little girls to look up to. I can't wait. I think this is an amazing decision. I'm all in. How about you guys? Are you excited to see Silk and Spider-Verse 2? And who else do you hope to see join the cast of characters? You know, we've got Silk, we got 2099. We're probably going to see all the ones from before. What other kind of weird out there Spider people? Maybe Spider-Punk? Who is going to come into here?
Spider-Knight. Yeah.
Who's Spider-Knight?
Oh, he's a medieval
I know
knight.
What you're talking about. Yeah, he's super cool. Throw them all in there. I can't wait to see what we get from this thing. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Now, we're going to switch gears into a slightly less exciting note, one that's a little bit more somber and a bummer. We're going to talk about Deadpool 3. Now, in an interview with Collider, Rob Liefeld, the creator of Deadpool, said, and I'm just going to read this word for word here, he said, "There may not be another Deadpool, and I'm fine, because I have to live with the fact that I had 2 amazing experiences, 2 movies I'm extremely proud of, and I love knowing everybody on those movies. I love Ryan Reynolds, Josh Brolin, Zazie Beetz, David Leitch, Tim Miller, all of them, and the work they did was fantabulous. Those movies are here to stand the test of time. You know, but in the world we live in, nothing is guaranteed, and it takes a lot to make movies, and post-quarantine, it's just weird." So, first thing we need to address here is Rob Liefeld has 0 say in whether a Deadpool 3 happens or not. That is completely solely in Disney's hands, right? So he can comment on it and sort of be involved in it, but he isn't like the go-to guy for sure knowing whether or not this is going to happen. But he is obviously connected, and it's an interesting comment to make nonetheless. You know, it's been a while since Disney purchased Fox and all of their rights, and I think had they not bought Fox, we probably would have had a release date for Deadpool 3 by now. It probably would have already been in development. They were on the Deadpool train. So with this acquisition, I see where the doubt kind of comes from, but just because we haven't heard anything yet, it's not enough to make me personally think it's not going to happen. I think Disney is trying to figure out what they kind of want to do with this thing. Do they want to make it PG-13? Do they want to keep it R? Are they going to try to put it in the MCU? Are they going to let them be in a standalone universe? I don't really know what their mindset is on that front yet, but both of the first 2 made ridiculous amounts of money at the box office. They're both loved by critics, they're loved by fans, and I can't imagine the people leading Disney over there are not wanting to cash in on that love. Deadpool makes money. It's been proven time and time again. The only thing I could see getting in the way is the complete collapse of the movie theater industry, but that would obviously affect much more than Deadpool anyway. Forrest, what are your thoughts when you hear, you know, Rob Liefeld commenting about, you know, what he's hearing is he's not super sure that Deadpool 3 is going to happen. He's kind of accepted that. What do you think about it? Do you think Deadpool 3 is going to happen? What do you think, man?
I think it's too much of a cash cow to count it out yet. I think that after the acquisition, they have a lot more to work with. I feel like the quarantine has actually been a little better for Marvel to sit down and go, okay, we've got Fox, we can do Fantastic Four stuff, we can do Deadpool stuff. He's ours, so we're going to have to tie this in very carefully. They have a lot of planning that they can throw in there now, and I just don't think that they have anything on the table yet for him, so I'm going to stay hopeful that eventually it'll come, but it may be that Rob Liefeld just hasn't heard anything yet because they don't have any plans at the time. Deadpool is such a great character, and, you know, with the R rating and, you know, MCU being pretty much all teen movies.
PG-13.
Yeah, that. Sorry, I play too many video games. It's going to be an interesting thing trying to connect those while still maintaining Deadpool as himself. So I guess we'll see. I hope the movie theaters industry kind of works out because I just want to go back and see a movie, especially Deadpool.
Me too. That's honestly, I mean, we're going to kind of get off topic here, but that is the scary part about all this. You know, AMC already almost went bankrupt. Like, they were very close. The world's largest movie theater chain almost went out of business already.
Yeah.
So if this keeps going and they have to shut down again, that's it. Like, studios aren't going to be able to make the money they need to make these movies. So that's what I'm really worried about. But dialing back a little bit, you seem to think, do you think they're going to incorporate Deadpool into the MCU?
I very carefully, I think so. You know, I think they'll maybe have him cameo here and there, but I think they're going to try to want to keep him as a separate thing. especially how originally they were thinking about, bumping it down to a PG-13 rating originally. I think, or maybe that was Venom. I know people were very upset about Venom.
Oh yeah.
So trying to take Deadpool and do the same thing doesn't work. So I think maybe he'll show up here and there, but I don't think he's going to be as big a part as some other characters who have joined.
You see, that's interesting. I think, and I kind of prefer that they would leave him in his completely own thing, put it under 20th Century Fox, don't connect it to the MCU in any way, and leave it like at that R rating. Because I think, and Bob Iger, who was president of Disney up until a couple months ago, had mentioned at one point, that they're willing to do R-rated movies as long as it's just so clear, like, to parents that they can take their kids to one thing and not the other thing. So I don't know, I mean, if they start putting Deadpool in a PG-13 Avengers movie, is that going to confuse parents and then think they can go and watch all of the sex and violence and cussing and very, very heavy R rating of Deadpool? I think they're concerned with. So I would just kind of personally prefer that they leave Deadpool off on his own. And I mean, he's already in Deadpool 2. There were so many references to the MCU. And if you can somehow pull the actors to come and be in that movie and make those references, maybe Chris Evans and RDJ show up in Deadpool 3, not as Tony Stark and Captain America, but to kind of push the boundary a little bit. That's how I am hoping this shakes out.
I can kind of see them keeping it as their own thing too. Part of me is just hopeful that they'll incorporate him somehow in the MCU, but I don't think he would be a big player in it at all, just because, after 2 movies, he's already got his groove of things, and they don't really want to change gears and shove him in, because he's such a big character and he demands attention all the time. So it doesn't really work to have him as a side character working with a team as much as, I guess, in Deadpool 2.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you saw how the X-Force, or before the X-Force, was it X-Force? Yeah, it's been a while since I've watched it. They all jump out of the
in
plane
Deadpool 2, yeah, and it's just an absolute shit show.
works together for all of a minute before they're all gone. So
yeah, I don't know. I think this is gonna happen. I haven't lost hope yet. I mean, it sounds like somebody close to it sort of has, but I'm holding out hope that it's all gonna shake out and we're gonna see Reynolds back in the suit, donning that Deadpool character again, because we can't lose that. It's too good.
It's very important.
What do you guys think? Do you think Deadpool 3 is still in the cards? How do you think Disney's going to handle the property? Let us know all of that in the comments below. Now, we're switching gears out of Marvel for a little bit for our last story here, and we're going to talk about Solo. Now, Solo was a very interesting movie to me because from the moment it was announced, I, like many others, gave it a lot of shit and basically thought, what's the point, right? Why are they making this? We just saw Han Solo die in The Force Awakens. Why do I care, right? I even ended up skipping it in theaters because at the time I just had to really be selective with which movies I wanted to see. The trailers didn't blow me away or anything, so I ended up skipping it in theaters. And it wasn't until you, actually, Forrest, borrowed me the movie and I watched it. Yes. And I absolutely loved it. Like, loved it. I put it in my top 5 Star Wars movies. I absolutely adore that film. And, for me personally, it kind of returned my faith in where the direction Star Wars was headed, because I know I'm way in the minority on this, and we bicker all the time about this, Forrest. But yeah. I really did not like Rogue One, and I didn't like The Last Jedi. And so I didn't really have a lot of faith in Solo, but when I saw it, I was like, oh my god. All of that said, the movie was a drama bomb mess behind the scenes for most of it, and it made history as the only Star Wars film to actually lose the studio money. That's never happened until Solo. So as much as I desperately want more from the story and these characters, I have assumed that it's just a hard no-go. But Alden Ehrenreich, who plays Han Solo, just gave a little bit more hope for us who are kind of holding on to this. In an interview with Esquire magazine, he talked about his role in the Star Wars universe, and when asked if he knows anything about a potential sequel, he responded, "I have heard some stuff, but nothing concrete yet." With a S-O-O-O-O-M-E, right? Like, I've heard some stuff, but nothing concrete. So, obviously, I'm fully aware that this is not much to go on, but it is interesting that even though nothing has been greenlit yet, it sounds like there are conversations happening. I'm going to throw this to you because I want to get your impressions on this for us. Did you enjoy Solo as much as I did? Would you like to see another one? And do you think that anything involving these characters could actually happen?
I did really enjoy Solo as a whole. I thought it was a weird choice to jump in there with a Han Solo story. It seems like,
oh yeah,
I don't know, there's a lot of stories that they could have told in Star Wars, and then they jump in and showed off like, hey, we're gonna do Solo. And a lot of people, I think it was on the back of, you know, people being upset with The Last Jedi. I think it came after that. Or...
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think a lot of it was a big boycott, I think, is why they lost money there. It was a good movie. Alden Ehrenreich he was okay. He doesn't look as much like Solo as I had hoped. I was holding out for Anthony and Gruber being cast as him because he looks like a young Harrison Ford. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, he did a fantastic job in acting. The story was super cool. All the characters, and then the tie-in at the end. Spoilers, if you haven't seen it, you should have by now. It's on Disney Plus. Go watch it. But they tie in the Black Sun at the end with Maul, and it's like, I feel like there's a lot more story to tell. So I would be excited for a sequel. And you know, it sounds like they're kind of testing the waters with it. More Star Wars is a good thing. The Mandalorian's great, but that's outside of the main stories. So I'm not sure if they're going to want to keep exploring around the Skywalker stuff, or if they're going to want to go a different direction.
Yeah, and it's interesting you say that, because I agree. As much as I love the movie, I really don't think they should have ever greenlit it in the first place. I just don't think there was a demand there to see a young Han Solo movie. Young Han Solo was in the original trilogy. Why do we care, right? I really don't think making that movie was a good call in the first place. But I think it turned out really good, and I think there's a lot of people who, much after the fact, after it's been out and after we've kind of gotten over that initial factor, have watched the movie and been like, this is actually pretty solid. This is a fun space adventure movie. It feels like Star Wars. This could be really cool. And there was a ton of people who aren't as big of like casual Star Wars fans who had no idea that Maul was alive. And to have that sort of come into play really blew a lot of people's minds. And I think that was really exciting for people to see what's going on here. And then it just kind of hard stopped. We haven't heard anything since. But I'm glad you brought up Mandalorian, because I think something about the Mandalorian is what makes this actually feasible. Now, last week, I know you weren't on, I was talking to Ian about this. The guy who was talking about Tron was talking about how he feels that Disney Plus is offering them a lot more opportunities to make these movies that aren't like super, super big budget, in-your-face, blockbusters at the theaters type of movies, like a Tron 3 would probably be. And he would think that Tron 3 would end up on Disney Plus. I think they could very, very well do a Solo, or even like a Solo spin-off, use some of the other characters, Disney Plus series like they did The Mandalorian. And I don't know if you've watched the documentary about The Mandalorian at all.
I've not
but
yet.
They had this thing called The Volume, and it's the most incredible thing I've ever seen. It's basically a digital set, and it's this whole room. The entire room is a screen around every single side. It's a screen on the top. They have it all 3D rendered, this whole set, and as they move the camera and stuff around, it dynamically moves around those screens. So it looks like they built an entire set, multiple entire sets, in one location, in one small room, and they were able to do so much with it, and that makes it so much more cost effective. And I feel like maybe before that they were like, okay, Solo lost us money, we can't do that. But now they're maybe seeing the demand there and being like, we have a way that we can maybe financially make this work with Disney Plus and doing a set on The Volume. I think that would be really, really cool. Use those lessons you learned from Mandalorian and make it happen. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like Disney Plus is a good catalyst for throwing movies or even series on there that a lot of people wouldn't think that they want to watch, but then it becomes a viral thing, especially with their weekly episodes rather than the Netflix style, just dropping it all at once. Mandalorian was like the biggest thing at the time.
Oh yeah.
People were looking for that kind of thing. I think after Game of Thrones ended, they were looking for the next big thing. So if they could, do something, maybe even a series, if not a movie with Solo, a weekly adventure kind of thing, I think it would work out really well.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm throwing my hat in the ring there. I really hope that's the way they go. I love watching TV series, and like The Mandalorian was basically, if you put it all together, it was sort of like a 4-hour movie, right?
Yeah.
And I like that sort of week-to-week hype that you get from that. Obviously, I love the movies. That's what we're here talking about. But I think that is the way they could do it and have that sort of 8-week-long hype cycle with a solo project could really, really boost an audience behind that character and those actors and that storyline again.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what I'm hoping for. What do you guys think? Do you want to see more Solo? Did you like the movie in the first place? Do you think they'll actually pull the trigger on some sort of sequel project, whether it be in the theaters or on Disney Plus, movie, TV series? Let us know all of that in the comments below. And that is a wrap on this week's Press to Play Rewind for the world of film. Forrest, thanks again for being here. It's always a pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on again. And I'm excited to talk about more film stuff with upcoming news. I'm sure there's going to be a lot this week, too.
There always is something, right?
Thank
you so much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a big thumbs up by hitting that like button. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to be the first to know when we upload a new video. You can also find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Press to Play OK. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you all later. Bye.